welcome back to JV Foodie Cooks. Today is National Zucchini Bread Day, so let's make some zucchini bread. So, first thing we have to do is take care of the star of the show, the zucchini. I am using 2 zucchini here to end up with hopefully a 1.5 cups of packed drained zucchini. I will tell you right now that if your zucchini is about the size mine was, 2 was not enough. I would recommend getting 3 just in case. I use the fine shredding side of a box cheese grater to grate my zucchini, and then I am pressing this onto a wire mesh strainer to try and push out as much moisture as I can. You can do this with your hands as well, using a tea towel, but you want to get out as much moisture as absolutely possible. Once you've got your strained zucchini, you can put that off to the side because we need to talk about the dry ingredients next. For our dry ingredients, we are starting out with 230 grams of King Arthur's gluten-free measure for measure flour, and just toss half a teaspoon or about 2.3 grams worth of salt right into the flour, followed by 1 teaspoon or about 5 grams worth of baking soda. And then lastly, and I almost forgot, we're going to add a little cinnamon. This wasn't a part of the original recipe that I'm using, but I felt like zucchini bread, or at least this zucchini bread, could use a little bit of a warm spice, so I added 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Whisk these all together until nicely combined, and then set this off to the side so that we can now worry about our wet ingredients. No need to dirty another bowl. We're mixing our wet ingredients right in with our zucchini you've had chilling on the side. So to our zucchini, we're adding 113 grams of unsalted butter that has been melted and then cooled down to room temperature. Next on the lineup is going to be 120 grams of coconut sugar. Then instead of 2 eggs like the recipe originally called for, I'm using 65 grams worth of applesauce to replace 1 egg. And then adding the other egg that you need, to keep things together, followed by a capful, or what is supposed to be 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Give this all a good mix until it's nice and combined and everything looks like they've gotten to know each other real well, and then we're ready to move on. Now you're going to acquire your bowl of dry ingredients, and you're going to slowly add your wet ingredients into your dry ingredients. Give this all a good mix until you don't have any large streaks of flour or any large pockets of flour, and everything is nicely combined. There's no real worry of over mixing this particular batter if that is what you are concerned about. Unlike using regular flour, you will develop gluten the more you stir. So if you've ever made banana bread or muffins and you've stirred the batter too much and you've ended up with like a tough muffin or like a tough tasting banana bread, you've over mixed. Here, that's not going to happen since there is no gluten to develop. So get it all combined. You can stir it as much as you want and it won't hurt anything. Lastly, and this is entirely optional, you don't have to if you don't want to, you can add chocolate chips. I did. I added 1 full cup of chocolate chips here. It looks like a lot. It might have been a lot. It might be a lot for some people, but like I said, entirely optional. It is entirely up to you. The world is your oyster. Now that our batter is officially ready, it's time to put it into our bread pan. So my batter is going into a prepared bread pan. I have made a little parchment paper sling and sprayed it with a little bit of Trader Joe's avocado oil because that's always what I have on hand. And then I'm just going to dump this in and smooth it out so that it's got an even amount of batter across the pan, and then it is ready to go into the oven. Your zucchini bread is now going to go into a 325 degree Fahrenheit or 162 degree Celsius oven, and you're going to cook it for a whopping total of 40 minutes or until a toothpick inserted into the center comes out clean. All right, I'm not going to lie to you. At 40 minutes, this recipe was not done. It was not ready. It was not pulling clean. It was still pulling pretty runny. So I did put it in for an additional 20 minutes. And then when I put a skewer into it, because I don't have toothpicks, it did come out clean-ish with just a little bit of liquid. But I thought, I put a lot of chocolate chips in this, so I'm probably hitting some chocolate chips. It's what it looks like. So it'll be fine. It was not fine. As you can see here, when I went to go pull the bread out of the bread pan to let it cool a little further, when I lifted up the parchment paper slings, I realized we had a problem. It was way too gooey in the middle. Things were just way too soft and squishy, and you can see here zoomed in just how squishy it actually is. It was not done. This bread was not set, and I know exactly what happened. So what happened? Where did I go wrong? Well, I will tell you that I live in what is typically a very dry part of the country. And when I test ran this recipe several months ago, it was very dry, and using 2 eggs just led to a dry zucchini bread. So I swapped out one for applesauce. But now we have recently had quite a bit of rain and the humidity levels are different. And I think adding the applesauce instead of the extra egg that should have been there was a mistake. So let's try and fix that now. Alright, so let's try this again. We are keeping our dry ingredients exactly the same as the first go around. This time I'm using 3 zucchinis because last time I only used 2 and it wasn't quite the 1.5 cups we needed. So I'm using 3 here. This time around we are also going to do everything in our power to remove as much liquid as possible from all of the zucchini we just shredded. So I am actually putting all of the shredded zucchini into a tea towel this time and squeezing the ever-loving bejesus out of it. You end up getting a lot of liquid out as long as you're squeezing. I thought I did a pretty good job the first time squeezing all the liquid out, but you know, you live and you learn. And then for our wet ingredients, 2 small differences between this second one and the first one. This second one, I ran out of coconut sugar for this second zucchini bread recipe, so I am topping that off with just a little bit of plain white sugar. And second thing, I am not using applesauce this time. So the first one, I used 1 container of applesauce to replace 1 egg. This time I am using 2 eggs like the recipe actually states. Now that you have your wet and your dry ingredients ready to go, it's time for them to meet and come together. So you're going to mix them all together. Remember, you don't need to worry about over mixing this batter and creating gluten and ending up getting a tough zucchini bread because there's no gluten to be found. We're using gluten-free flour, remember? So get this all nice and mixed up and together. One thing you will notice me not adding to this is chocolate chips this time. The person who this particular loaf is going to does not enjoy chocolate. I'm pretty sure I said the first time that chocolate chips were optional, so we're skipping them this time. Just a little FYI heads up if you were like, where are the chocolate chips at? Now that you have your batter, you are going to set up your bread pan with some parchment paper and some oil, and then just dump that batter right into that bread pan, and then put that bad boy into the 325-degree oven and bake for 40 minutes or until a toothpick, or in my case, a skewer, comes out clean. And the verdict on this one was a perfect zucchini bread. It was moist, it was fully cooked. I could pull it out of the bread pan and not have it squished together. It wasn't gooey or gummy. It was delicious. I would happily eat this, even though it doesn't have chocolate chips in it, with my coffee in the morning. So I hope that you enjoy National Zucchini Bread Day, or if you're looking for ways to trick your children into eating vegetables, I mean, this is one way to do it. So happy that day to you too. And if you feel like there's a zucchini bread recipe that I should try, or you tried this one and it worked out great for you, or maybe it didn't work out so great for you, leave your comments down below and I will see you next week. Bye.